Hey now, welcome to part 2 of the Miracle Morning. This segment of our show is titled The $1 Million Miracle Morning. I told you in part 1, if you missed part 1, I will put a card right up there somewhere. I don't know which side it's going to be on. I'll put a card right up there somewhere for you to click on to watch part 1, or you can stay with me till the end of the show and you can click on part 1 right after this part is over. Welcome to the Inside BS Show. My name is Dave Lorenzo. This is the show that takes you inside business strategy. It takes you inside business sales. In part 1, we talked about how you spend the first few hours of your day to create a miracle morning. And the miracle morning is a phrase that was coined from Hal Elrod, who wrote a book titled The Miracle Morning. Hal is an author, and I read The Miracle Morning and I wasn't impressed because all the stuff he said to do, I was already doing. So here's what I want you to do to get your $1 million Miracle Morning started. Let's talk about the things that you should do to make your $1 million Miracle Morning happen. Once you do these things, your life is going to be so much easier because you're going to get referrals on autopilot. Let me tell you the story about how I discovered these 5 daily habits that I do every day. So I started doing each of these habits at a different time, and what I realized was every time I reached out to someone, they reached back and we were talking, and probably about 50% of the time that I reached out, I would get a referral. So one day I went into my office and I said, I'm gonna call 3 people before I do anything. And I sit down in my office, pick up the phone on my desk, and I call and I get the first person, talk to him for 15 minutes to catch up. And 2 or 3 days later, he calls me back and he introduces me to somebody. The second person I talked to that day was somebody that I had gone to grad school with. I just called him to catch up to see how he was doing. And he said, hey, I got tickets to a Knicks game on Thursday night. Do you wanna go? And I said, sure. I went to the Knicks game with him, and it was him and one of his buddies. Turns out his buddy worked for a company that I had been trying to get into. That call led to me meeting this guy who ended up introducing me to the exact person I needed to meet in the company to pitch. The third call I made that day was to a friend that I hadn't spoken to in years, who had just taken a new job, and I called her to see how she was doing as she was settling in on her new job. And she said, oh, it's so funny that you called me. I wanted to let you know that the last conversation we had was about someone who you needed to do the roofing on your home. Well, I met the perfect roofer. Did you hire someone yet? I said, no. As a matter of fact, I gave up on it because we're not in the rainy season and I'm not worried about it, but I would love a referral to a roofer. So that day, I made 3 phone calls and I got 3 connections to 3 people who were completely useful. I keep track of everything that I do during the course of my day, and when I look back on that day, I said, shoot, I think I'm onto something here. So that was the start of this habit of making 3 phone calls a day. And that's actually the second thing I want you to do. Before you make your phone calls, when you get into your office, I want you to send out 3 handwritten notes. Now, how do you figure out who to send the handwritten notes out to? I'm going to give you 4 or 5 ideas on who to send handwritten notes to. Your handwritten notes can be just a note card that you write out that you buy in a stationery store or a CVS or a Walgreens, whatever local pharmacy, drugstore you have near you. They look like thank you cards, but they're just plain white inside. You may want to order some once you get in the hang of doing this that have your initials on them or that are personalized in some way. Each day, pick 3 people from your contacts. Start with your clients, then go to prospects, then go to people who are evangelists for you, referral sources, then go to just random people. In fact, if you read a story about someone in the newspaper, Google them, do the Google dance, Google them, look them up, and find their address, and write them a note. Hey, I saw this article on you in the paper, cut the article out, fold it up, put it in there. Congratulations on all your success. I hope that you continue to be successful. I would love to hear the story about how you got to be where you are. Call me if you think it would make sense for us to get together. And then you put your business card in there, or whatever, write whatever you want in there. The idea is to make contact with the person. Here's what happens. About 50% of the time, people who receive these handwritten notes will call you up. And if you know them, you'll have a check-in conversation with them. And and those check-in conversations that I just described in my story always lead to business. So the first thing I want you to do every morning when you get in your office, remember in part 1 we covered what you do before you go to the office. Now part 2, the first things you do when you get in the office, write 3 handwritten notes to people. What should it say? Hey, thinking about you, I saw this thing we used to do when we were together, or one of these things I saw made me think of you, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you soon. Warm regards, and your name, and throw a business card in there, whatever. Whatever you want to write. Send the note card out. Here's why this works so well. Human beings, as a species, are under-recognized. We are under-recognized. So if you write handwritten notes to people, they will be thrilled that you connected with them. They will enjoy getting the note from you, and they'll reach out to you. About half the time, they'll reach out to you and thank you for the note card, and you'll start a conversation, and that may lead to a referral for you. Now, how often does this lead to referrals? Well, I do 3 of these a day, and I send them out 5 days a week, and I end up getting at least 1 or 2 referrals a week as a result of the handwritten note cards. Now, some of the referrals are good, some of them are crappy, but when I get a good referral, I think to myself, the handwritten note card just paid off. So the first thing to do for your $1 Million Miracle Morning when you get to the office is write 3 handwritten notes. The second thing you do, you make your phone calls. Now, we already covered that, but simply put, your phone calls are just check-in calls. You take the same list of people that you sent note cards to, and you have to create an Excel spreadsheet, or if you have a client relationship management system, a CRM system, you can use that. You keep track of who you sent the handwritten notes to, and if they called you back, you don't call those same people. Like the guy who called you yesterday, you don't call him today and go, hey, I'm checking in with you. Well, you just checked in with me yesterday. No. So if they call you from the handwritten notes, you don't have to call them, but go through that same list in that same order, that same hierarchy. First, call your clients. Second, call your prospects. Third, call your referral sources. Hey, I'm just calling to check in, see how things are going. What's going on in your world? Maybe there's somebody I can refer you to. Tell me what you're working on. That's the essence of the call. Make 3 of those phone calls in the morning, right when you first get into the office, after you write your handwritten note cards, okay? Why are you making phone calls and sending out handwritten notes? Some of the same people are gonna get the handwritten notes that got your phone call. Yes, that's the idea. You're showing these people that they're important to you and that you care about them. And by showing them that you care about them, they will think you're a special person. They will want to help you. They will want to refer you business. The third thing I want you to do when you're sitting in your office is I want you to write something. Now, why do I want you to write something? It could be a journal. I created basically a journal out of a file folder that I create in a Google Drive folder, right? It's called Journal, my Google Drive journal. And then I put a label on it for each month, and then each day I open a new Google document, and the title of it in Google Documents is the date, and then I just write stream of consciousness, and I try to organize my thoughts. Now, sometimes I write an article that I'm going to use for business development purposes. Sometimes I just write about what's going on in my life. I choose to write 1 day a week about one of my kids, another day a week about another one of my kids, and a third day of the week about my wife. Sometimes I write about a difficult issue I'm facing. Sometimes I write about a client that I'm going after. Why do I do this? Why do I want you to do this? Why do I want you to write for 15 minutes or maybe even 30 minutes if you enjoy writing every day? The way you write is the way you think. So this has 3 purposes. First, it helps you organize your thoughts. And then when you organize your thoughts, you can organize your approach to the rest of the day. Oftentimes in my journal, I'll write, this morning I did this, this, and this, and now I have these 5 things to do. Here's the order I'm going to do them in. The reason I'm putting them in this order is because. And then I look at the things that I've written and I'm like, you know what? That order doesn't make sense. I need to change the order of the things I'm going to do, so I'm going to tackle this task next and then move this to the back. Journaling is a great way to clear up your thoughts. It's a great way to organize your thoughts. So that's the first reason I want you to journal. The second reason I want you to write an article or journal is because it will help you get things that are bothering you out of your head onto the paper, and you can let them go. So if let's say you had a fight with your best friend, before you came to work, like last night, or you had a fight with your significant other, with your spouse last night. You get into the office and you journal about the fight that you had, or you got into an argument with one of your kids because they didn't want to do something you wanted them to do, or you had a situation. Put it down on paper. Once you put it down on paper, it's like it releases all of that energy. All of that bad energy comes out and goes out into the world, and you no longer suffer with it, and it no longer weighs you down for the rest of the day. It's amazing how this works. So I want you to get those things out, the bad things out, in your journal on paper or in the article that you're writing. The third reason I want you to write first thing in the morning is because when you write and you talk about goals or aspirations, you're naturally visualizing them. So if you write about your goals, you write about the goals you have for yourself and for your business, you have to think about them in your mind, and your mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what you're envisioning or imagining. So if you write about the goal you have of landing $1 million client, and what you're gonna do when you get that $1 million client, the house you're gonna buy, describe it in detail, the car you're gonna buy, describe it in detail, the vacation to Spain you're going to take, describe it in detail in your writing. And if you write about this over the course of a week, each day you write for 3 or 4 minutes on this one particular goal, or 5 minutes, or even 15 minutes on this one particular goal, you'll visualize it in your mind, and you'll be comfortable taking the actions necessary to achieve it. So 3 things you're gonna do in your journal or in the article that you're writing. Number 1, you can actually write an article for marketing purposes. Number 2, you're gonna write about things that are bothering you. Number 3, you're gonna write about your goals, your dreams, and your ambitions. You're gonna get your thoughts for the day down. The way you write is the way you think. It will help you organize your thoughts. It'll be a great exercise for you. The 4th thing I want you to do in your miracle morning is I want you to pass a referral. Now, these days, a lot of people are not in a physical office. So you can pass a referral on a Zoom call or on Skype. You can call up 2 people and say, hey, you know, Jim, I was thinking that connecting you with my friend Erin would be ideal because you're an attorney and you work with landlords. Erin's an insurance broker, and she writes property and casualty insurance for people just like your clients. I think it'd be a good connection. You guys could refer business back and forth. Jim says yes. You call up Erin. Erin, I want you to meet Jim. Jim's a lawyer. He works with landlords. I know that you write property and casualty insurance for landlords, so I think it would be great if you guys connected because you could refer business. Yes, I agree. I think it would be great. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do an email introduction, and we'll set up a Zoom call so I can introduce the 2 of you. That's exactly the referral type of thing I want you to do. Why do I want you to do that? In addition to the handwritten notes and the phone calls, passing this referral every day, what does it do? It has 2 people now who think you're the greatest thing in the world, and 2 people who want to reciprocate to you. They want to refer business back to you because you've gone out of your way to refer business to them. Setting the table for the referral takes a little bit of work, but it's well worth it because passing that referral gets 2 people thinking about you and wanting to reciprocate with you. Again, think of the odds of you passing 1 referral every day, 5 days a week. That's 10 people you're going to refer. That's 10 people who are now thinking about you and wanting to pass you business back. All right, the 5th thing you should do to create $1 million miracle morning for yourself is you should set a meeting for you with either a prospect or with an evangelist. That's right, set a meeting for you with a prospect or an evangelist. I know, hey Dave, I'm in sales, I set meetings all day long. This is different. This is with somebody who you're following up with for the 2nd or 3rd time and you just can't seem to get any traction, or it's an evangelist who you know could be referring you business, should be referring you business, but isn't. I want you to set a breakfast meeting, a lunch meeting, or a dinner meeting. If you're concerned about catching COVID or something, you can do this on Zoom. You can set up the meeting via Zoom, but schedule a meeting to sit down with someone who should be referring you and hasn't, or should be doing business with you and hasn't. And I want you to do a typical Godfather meeting. What's a Godfather meeting? You just give it to them straight. You look them in the eye and you go, Jim, I passed you 4 referrals. I think some of them resulted in business, right, Jim? Oh yeah, Dave, 2 of them became great clients, blah, blah, blah. Great. Jim, you know who a good client for me is, don't you? Let me describe a good client for me. Jim, how come you haven't referred me anybody? Do you have trouble describing what I do? Let me walk you through what we can do together. This is the kind of meeting I want you to have. Now, if this is with a prospect, you're going to say, Mr. Prospect, we've met 5 times already. I demonstrated a load of value. I showed you how much money I would save you if we worked together. You told me this problem was pressing for you. Why aren't we working together? Give me the reasons. So the reason this is a Godfather meeting is because by the end of your time together, that person's either going to be dead to you or they're going to be your best friend. And that's what the Godfather did with people. They either did what he said or they were dead to him, and pretty much they were dead to everybody else. So you're going to schedule a Godfather meeting. You're going to try and schedule one of those every day. You may want to have 3 of those meetings a week, let's say. So you're going to try to schedule those meetings every day, but you may only be successful 3 times. It's the effort that counts. It's the habit that counts. So these are the 5 habits that you need to get into if you want to have a $1 million miracle morning. If you missed the first part of this 2-part series, that video is filling in right below me right now. Be sure and click on that video, and I will see you there.